Hi, friends. Welcome to episode number 30 of our procurement and sourcing series. I know this is not an easy job to do, right? From episode 1 to episode 30, if you have watched all the videos related to this series, then you can call yourself as a functional consultant in procurement and sourcing module because it requires a lot of discipline and persistence in order to watch all these videos right from the start. So, kudos to that. With that note, in this video, we will be discussing and closing this series by understanding the procurement and sourcing workspaces. We will discuss a couple of workspaces within procurement sourcing module. Also, we will discuss in detail about how do we configure the supply risk assessment workspace, which is an embedded view of Microsoft Power BI. With that note, let's quickly jump into our last video of our procurement sourcing series. Let's quickly get into today's topic, our last episode in procurement and sourcing series. And so today we will be covering in detail about workspaces in Dynamics 365 Finance and Operation, and we will discuss this topic very specifically related to procurement and sourcing module. But before getting into what are the workspaces available in Dynamics 365, first let's understand what is a workspace in Microsoft Dynamics 365. So first of all, we need to understand the definition of workspace. A workspace is defined as the part of primary navigation mechanism. So this is basically a primary navigation mechanism for the day-to-day operations, a form that supports a business activity. Most importantly, what you need to note is a logical group of tasks. So this is where you can see the logical grouping of tasks related to your daily business operations, maybe with respect to purchase orders or warehouse management or production control. So where the logical grouping of these tasks with respect to the order statuses, or you can also create your own custom workspaces, which we have already discussed in some of our previous episodes. Please do check out the video in our channel D3 Talks if you have not yet. But these workspaces help you to give those views for the end users, and they will not only giving a view, but also they will be able to take appropriate actions looking at whatever the analysis they do based on the data available in the respective views. So it is also a way to provide initial overview. So the users will get, let's say today morning I log into the system as a purchasing manager. It gives me an initial overview, and how do we increase the productivity in the activity by allowing simple tasks to be completed directly in the workspaces. So these will also not only just gives you an overview of the ongoing processes, but also helps you to complete those simple tasks. We will quickly see some of the workspaces which are available in procurement and sourcing, so that you will be able to understand some of the simple tasks like creating a purchase order, confirming the purchase order, doing a product receipt. So those actions can also be performed by using these workspaces. So there are a lot of goals with respect to this workspace. The one specific thing which I want to highlight here is here it provides a visual impact. So and also it reduces the need for navigation, which is very important because if we look at Dynamics 365, in order to check the purchase orders which are in various status like draft, in review, I need to do multiple filtrations, understand which are all the purchase orders which are not confirmed, whether it is waiting for delivery or receipt. So all this I need to do a lot of filtration, sorting. So all these can be reduced if we start using the workspaces in Dynamics 365. So like I said, this is not, let me get into Dynamics 365 screen here. Like I said, right now we are in procurement sourcing module. We have three workspaces similar to that. Even if you get into product information management, we have workspaces related to product information management. Production control, in production control series, we already discussed in detail about production flow management. I'll also share the link. Please do check out the same. And similar to this, even if you go to warehouse management, you have workspace related to outbound work planning, outbound work monitoring, warehouse, mobile devices. So these will help you to quickly get an overview of the current processes, and it will also help you to take some simple actions which are appropriate and make the business process flow without having any stoppages. So let me get back to procurement sourcing module. So today now we will be discussing in detail about purchase order preparation, purchase order receipt and follow-up. But in this video primarily we will spend a lot of time in terms of understanding and configuring the supply risk assessment, which is very important because configuring the supply risk assessment will help you to track the supplier performance, and what is the risk which we have in terms of the source of supply or the location of supply. How do we identify those? All those can be performed by you, but most importantly, this is a Power BI embedded feature for which a lot of configurations which need to be performed. So we will be discussing especially in detail about supply risk assessment. So watch this video until end. So first, since now we understood what a workspace is, so now we will be focusing on purchase order preparation workspace. So purchase order preparation workspace is a place where you will be, each and every workspace will be having a summary view where you will be able to view all the transactions in specific tiles. So these tiles give the count of the transactions under the respective heads. And we have a order section where under the respective statuses like in draft, review. So here you can see the overall count, but if you get into the respective sections, you can view the order ID level details along with the vendor accounts. So like what are the orders which are approved but not yet confirmed. So these are the list of orders in the system. So even if you just simply click on this tile, let's say if I click on approved tile, then it directly takes me to the purchase order inquiry page with also it has filtered the purchase orders with by default with the status as approved. So you can view only the purchase orders which are all the status of approved for a detailed view. But if I go back, you can see here what are the total list of approved purchase orders, what are the purchase orders which are in review, which are not yet approved, so that you can quickly view those purchase orders and you can notify the managers for approving those. So all these can help you in your day-to-day operations if you start using the workspaces. Right. So apart from that, the workspaces also provide you with the relevant links based on the respective modules. Let's say in this case, we have the relevant links related to procurement sourcing module. If you want if you want to navigate to request for quotation, or if you want to release approved purchase requisitions as part of our purchase requisition series, sorry, episode, we also saw how do we release the approved purchase requisitions, how do we configure the manual release of the purchase requisitions in the purchasing policies. So if you have done all those, then you can also do it from this particular workspace. If you want to check all the planned purchase orders, whatever available in the system, then from this page you will be able to quickly navigate and check if there are any purchase orders which are already planned in the pipeline before releasing any new purchase orders. So that is also possible by using this workspace. And like I said, just it's not just about viewing these, getting an overview of the current processes. You'll also be allowed to take some simple action items, like you can create a new purchase order after viewing the getting an overall idea about the current processes. You can also create a new purchase order from this workspace. You can simply give this workspace access to a purchasing agent, so he or she can quickly get an overview and create a purchase order directly from this workspace. So they can take an action looking at the data available in this workspace. So for example, even if I go to approved purchase orders, so we are also having the option to confirm the purchase orders directly from this page. Let's say, let me select any purchase order. I'm not sure whether the lines are there or not. We will get some errors or not, but the thing is, from this page we will be able to directly take appropriate actions. But in this case we have some error. Okay, there is some issue with the budget control processing. Let me try with another purchase order. Let's select this. I hope we don't get any validations. Okay, but fine. See, the whole idea is we can go on like this, so that we have some issues with the budget control. So that's why this purchase orders are not confirmed. But let me take this particular purchase order. Let me confirm this. That is okay. Winter code, that is fine, completely fine. Okay, I think this is right now confirmed 207, so that is removed from the list. So that is completely removed from the list. But the point which we need to note here is the item is removed from the list, and you can see the approved count is still 27. Let me go and begin the update. So this is where we are allowing the users to begin the update for the respective tiles, but sometimes this value is not updated by default. Um, let's say now we have approved purchase order count is 27. Let me go to accounts payable. Sorry, even in from the procurement sourcing can navigate to purchase orders. Let's say, so let me quickly create a purchase order. The count which we saw for the approved purchase orders was 27, right? So let me go and create a quick purchase order. Let me add any item. Quantity be, let it be 1000. Let it be 1. Let me go back. So now let me go back to again to the respective purchase order preparation page. Um, Now you can see the count has increased to 28. So sometimes the data will not be refreshed. You might be wondering why the data is not refreshed. You need to go and begin the update now so that the data will be refreshed. But you can also control whether you want to give this a begin update now access to the users or not. How do we do that? Let's say if I go to system administration module, then under setup, data cache, and then tile data cache configuration. So this is where you will be able to configure whether you want to allow manual refresh or not. Let's say let me filter the specific tile. Since I know the name, I'm going by the filtration option. Otherwise you need to scan through each and every tile and make sure that you select the appropriate tile before enabling the manual refresh for the respective tiles. So here you can configure whatever the tiles you have enabled here, only those tiles will be visible in your workspace. Let's say the approved is enabled, the refresh frequency is 5 seconds. You can keep the refresh frequency maybe 10 seconds or maybe 60 seconds, maybe for every minute. So make sure that the refresh frequency is in seconds, is configured in seconds. And if I disable this, let's say I'm disabling the manual refresh option, and then let me save this, and purchase order approved is where I am disabling it. Let me go back. Let me go back to procurement and sourcing module, purchase order preparation. So right now on the top, if I click on the respective tiles, like I get the begin update option for approved without confirmed delivery date. Draft also we will have it. In review also we have this. But if I go to approved, you can see that we don't have the option to begin update now. So we are not allowing the users to begin the update now for this specific tile. So similarly, you can allow the users based on your business specific requirements. You can define which particular tiles you should allow the users to begin the update and which tiles you do not want them to update on their own. But the update still happens automatically based on the frequency which you have set in the parameter system administration, setup, data cache, and then tile data cache. So here, whatever the refresh frequency you set, based on which the data will be refreshed automatically, and you don't need to do a manual refresh each and every time. So let us go back. Let's go back to procurement and sourcing module. So that is the overall idea of having purchase order preparation workspace. So make sure that you configure the refresh frequency if you want to enable it or disable it, or you can also configure if you want to manually refresh it or not. And from this workspace also you can create a new purchase order, take some simple actions, not the detailed actions like what we have in the traditional purchase order inquiry form, but you will be able to take some simple actions from this workspace. So the next workspace which we have is purchase order receipt and follow up. This is also an important workspace for the store users who are actually doing those follow-ups and completing the product receipts. So by default, what is the delayed receipts by vendor? So by vendor, I can view from the vendor fabricom, there are 11 lines which are delayed for receipts. And you can also view what are those lines which are registered but not received. So we, after completing the registration process, the product receipt is not closed, which is not a good sign. We need to understand why after completing the registration the product receipt not closed, so that I can, as a user, I can quickly go and take an appropriate action for those. So this is also an important workspace, I would say. And from this workspace you can also set up credit task to post the receipt list and the product list. And you can also track the direct delivery. We discussed already in detail about direct delivery processes. If not, please do check out the same if you want to know about the direct delivery. But I strongly believe that you are watching this series from episode 1 to 30 so that you have the overall process flow idea, understanding all the functionalities before directly coming into the episode number 30. So so next what we have is the supply risk assessment workspace. But before getting into the work supply risk assessment workspace, let me go back to the slide. um, we need to understand the fundamental definition for supply risk assessment workspace. By fundamental definition, supply risk assessment is a workspace and it's and then analytics dashboard, because this is primarily have the embedded Power BI capabilities, which will help you to do all the kind of analysis in terms of what are the risk that we have in terms of the purchase order supplies. So what are the key benefits? I would say the top key insights related to supplier performance and related risk, the user will be able to identify those quickly. It helps supply managers understand the risk of encountering sourcing shortages, which is very important at any point in time when you have the dashboard ready. So you will be able to quickly understand what are the sourcing shortages or the risk in delays with respect to the supplies. And it's embedded analytic reporting that uses the Microsoft Power BI, which is very, very, very important, because using which you get a visual representation, all those and the charts, the pictorial representation which you have, it helps you to take swift actions. And that's how users can decide and take informed decisions in terms of diversing the vendors for the multi-source strategies, and then use different shipping methods. What are all the shipping or the mode of deliveries which they can use, or if they want to change the sourcing locations of diverting a specific supply to a nearest location to the vendor, or how do we manage the transportation. So all those you can decide by using this supply risk assessment workspace, so which is very important. But before getting into the workspace, the most important aspect is um, understanding the configuration, because unlike the other workspaces like what we have seen right now, purchase order preparation or product receipt, the configuration for supply risk assessment is very important. So let me get into Dynamics 365 screen. Mm, so let me show you the supply risk assessment workspace. So here you can see that you have the tiles where you can clearly see there is a 75% of orders which are confirmed as requested, and on-time delivery in full. We'll quickly see what are all these actually mean. So here also you can see there is an option to refresh the data, but we'll also see how do we allow the users to refresh the data, or how we can disable the refreshing of the data. But before getting into that, let me get into Microsoft Learn page, so that we'll go the overall configuration listed out in the Learn page one by one. So first prerequisite for configuring this supply risk assessment workspaces, you need to make sure that you're operating in the version 10.0.31 or later. And also, if you're using a feature, if you're using a version which is greater than 10.0.36, then you don't need to enable this feature. It is turned on by default. But otherwise, you need to make sure that you enable the feature if you're using a version older than 10.0.36. So that's the first prerequisite which we need to take care. Next setup in terms of configuring this, after you enable the feature, then you need to navigate to supply risk parameters in order to configure the four options which are listed out here. So let me go to procurement and sourcing module. Yeah, we are in procurement sourcing module. Setup, not in procurement sourcing parameter, but there is a separate parameter called supply risk assessment parameters. So let me go to supply risk assessment parameter. So we have only one section called general section. We need to set the default values for the risk assessment. So system need to understand what is the rate which should be considered as a benchmark in order to perform this risk assessment with the supplies. So there are four options. What are the four thresholds? Let's understand each one by one. So the first one is the requested receipt date acceptance rate. Enter the minimum percentage of the orders where vendors are expected to return a confirmed receipt date. So what is the minimum percentage of orders you expect the vendors to confirm the receipt date, so that it is actually helping you to do all those calculations, right? Because confirmed receipt date is very, very important, and the confirmed receipt date should meet your requested receipt date. Let's say today I'm placing the order and I'm requesting for a receipt for tomorrow, but the vendor is not confirming for tomorrow, but they are confirming the receipt by day after tomorrow. So that is a risk for supply. So first percentage is you need to track is based the rate, the threshold what you are fixing is the minimum percentage of orders where vendors are expected to return a confirmed receipt date. I think by definition that is clear. And the second one is in full delivery rate. So let's say if we make a order for under quantity, what is the minimum percentage of delivery that are expected to arrive in full? It can be with multiple orders, right? So let's say it is for 100 quantity, it has to be minimum 90% or 95%. What is the delivery rate which you expect? And third one is on-time delivery. Enter the minimum percentage of deliveries that are expected to arrive on time. So on time is calculated based on your requested receipt date, requested ship date, and confirmed receipt date and confirmed ship date, and also your delivery date while we are closing the product asset. So if you want to confirm what is the rate which you want to define for the on-time deliveries, then you need to define the appropriate rate over here. And last, if you want to track along with on time and in full, which is OTIF, which is a popular metric across the procurement and sourcing, I would say. So if you want to track the OTIF based on a specific benchmark rate, then you configure those rate also over here. You can also see by default, each rate threshold is set to 96%. In case if your organizational requirement is 90% or maybe 85%, then set the appropriate rates over here. Right now, if I go to supply risk assessment workspace, here you can see that there is a warning message against the 75% mark, right? So let me go back, supply risk assessment parameter. Let me change the value to, let's say if I have the 70% benchmark is fine for my company, my industry, then let me save this. Let me go back to the supply risk assessment workspace. So now you can see that it shows a tick sign, which means we don't see any risk in terms of confirmed as requested receipt date, because the suppliers have or expected to return the receipt date and we got that, but we have some risk in terms of on-time delivery and in full receipt. So this is how you can define in the parameter. Let me go back to the parameter. So you can define what are the default values, the threshold rates for the supply risk assessment. And so the next configuration is initialize the workspace data and configure refresh option. So this is what we saw for the other workspaces, the data cache, what we did. Similar to that, we need to configure the refresh option over here for the supply risk assessment also. But this we need to do it in system administration, setup, data cache, data set cache configuration. Let me go to system administration, setup, and then data cache. Data we actually saw at the tile level data cache refresh. Now it is dataset cache configuration. So here you can see there is a specific consumer which is vendor supply risk cache dataset. So simply click on edit, and if you have the manual refresh enabled, then the user will be able to refresh the supply risk assessment. If this is not enabled, then they will not be able to refresh this. And they can also set the refresh frequency in seconds. Generally for supply risk assessment, the refresh frequency is kept at a higher end because it tend to pull data from multiple forms in your system. Sometimes this may cause slowness issue in your system based on the overall load that you have. So it is better to have a higher refresh frequency. So that's the reason by default the data shows for a 86,400 refresh frequency in seconds. Make sure that you have also enabled the manual refresh option. So this is the second configuration which we saw as part of the learning doc. So the same definition is written over here. I will also share the link for this document in the video description. Please do check out the same. And the third one is the refresh the analytics of the entity store data. So imagine like this. So each of the platform have the apps, right? So these apps get the data from the dataverse. So every time the entity store data need to be refreshed so that your purchase order data related, the transaction related data are fetched from the dataverse, and appropriately these Power BI reports are run. So in order to do that, you need to make sure that you configure the entity store data refresh also. So how to do that? Let me go back to procurement sourcing modules, not in system administration. Under setup, you have the option called entity store. So system administration, setup, entity store. So in the list, you need to select the purchase cube, which is actually refreshing the data for the supply risk assessment. Let me go to purchase cube. So this is the one which actually, so you can see by default it is configured for automatic refresh. But if the automatic refresh is disabled, then you cannot set the recurrence. If I disable this, then you will not be allowed to set the recurrence. Make sure that you enable the automatic refresh so that the system is trying to fetch the data which are actually required to run these Power BI reports. I'll quickly show you how these reports look like in the Dynamics 365 screen. So let me save this. So here, that's what the system in the learn document also we see. Select refresh to start the refresh process. It will take about 15 minutes. But if you set the automatic refresh is enabled to yes, then set the recurrence field to the desired refresh interval. So then you also need to set the recurrence of these refreshes in on to what frequency this should happen, so that it can fetch the data and then perform the those analytics using the Power BI report and then publish it to you. So now let's go back and look at the way it is. Supply risk assessment, procurement and sourcing module, supply risk assessment. So if I all this is a overview tab, and to check the Power BI embedded view, you need to get into the performance page. Sometimes it takes time, but let's wait for the data to refresh. So here you will be able to view along with some pictorial charts, which is easy for you to understand what is the status of the supply. You can also see overall purchase order lines, purchase quantity. So this is where, see, now this is something which is looks really beautiful in terms of analysis which need to be performed, right? So you can see the confirmed rate, on time delivery, which is actually going bad. In full is good because the quantities are getting supplied in full, but it is we are not receiving on time, which is very important. So that we can discuss with the vendors appropriately. So you can also let's say vendor specific to the region, you can filter it and then view the respective data. You can also filter it based on the product. So these are all something which you can do. You can play around with this. I'm not going to get into the detail because this is something which, if you are really interested in analytics, then you can get into the respective sections. Here also you can see some tabs related to supply performance tracking, product performance. This is with respect to the product. So previous tab with is respect to the supplier. Here it is with respect to the product. And also you can do a OTIF analysis, on time in full analysis. What is the worst OTIF by product, by vendor? So here the benchmark is taken as 80%. Let's say even if I reduce the value, then I can appropriately compare what is the worst OTIF which I have. It is for Alpine Ski or Acme Office Supplies, so that I appropriately I can have the discussion with the vendors. So here also you can see worst OTIF. So it clearly gives a pictorial view of what is the statuses of the current processes, so that you can take appropriate action. And this is with respect to performance. And also we have a tab with respect to the risk, where also you can see the Power BI embedded view provides a clear direction of what is the supply risk that we have, so that we can decide on whether to go with a multi-sourcing strategy, where do we plan the location for supplies. So all those can be done. So this also sometimes takes time. Yeah, so this is something which clearly gives a beautiful view of the landscape along with the dashboard, so that it helps the users to take the appropriate business decisions, right? So this is the whole idea of having this supply risk assessment workspace. So please do try this out in your sandbox environment. Let me go back to the slide. But you need to do all the configurations whatever we have discussed right now, without which you will not be able to perform. So with that, I think let me go to the next slide. So with that, we are coming to the end of this procurement and sourcing series, end of this episode. So thanks for watching these episodes, and I'll be happy to share more videos later to Microsoft Dynamics 365. But a quick recap on all the areas whatever we have covered, because we started off with an agenda where we wanted to cover about the source to pay processes, where we have covered about cataloging, requisition. Let me go back to Dynamics 365 screen. So to give you an idea that procurement in the procurement and sourcing module, Let me collapse also. We discussed in detail about purchase orders, purchase requisition, request for quote, catalogs at a very high level. But if you want, please let me know in the comment section. We will discuss in detail about the cataloging and functionalities, price and discounts, trade agreements, purchase agreement process, vendor rebates, consignment inventory, and also we discussed in detail about the charges, supplementary item, purchasing policy. So in a just I would say we almost covered more than 80% of the topics related to but at a very high level, but 80% of topics or the functionalities related to procurement and sourcing module. And still there are areas like intercompany orders, multi-sourcing policies, so which we have not touched upon. But if you are really interested in those topics, please do let me know that in the comment section. But otherwise, whatever the topics which we have discussed, which we actually went into a understand that at a very high level, the process flow related to procurement hierarchy, direct delivery, these are the process which we have seen as part of this NTS series. So I will strongly recommend you to go through the videos. And not only that, because simply watching these videos will not help you. You need to try this out parallelly in your sandbox environment. So that's how you will be continuously able to learn and do it. If you then only you will be able to get full benefit of the videos which I am posting in this channel. And we also covered about broker and royalty in the couple of episodes before. And there are topics like I said, intercompany orders, vendor performance analytics. Actually, we discussed in this episode regarding the supply risk assessment, purchase order confirmation, workspaces, which you can really make use of in your day-to-day work. But we have not discussed in detail about inquiry and reports and copilot in procurement. I thought of discussing copilot in procurement in this episode, but considering the depth of the topic, we will be taking it as a separate series. If you really need to know understand about the copilot in procurement, let me know your thoughts in the comment section. So that brings us to the end of this video, end of this series. Thanks for watching this series right from the episode 1 to episode number 30. Make sure that you subscribe to the channel D365 Talks or follow my profile in LinkedIn to get regular updates whenever I post videos related to Microsoft Dynamics 365 F&O, Microsoft or Microsoft Copilot. And the next series I was actually planning related to intercompany orders, Copilot in procurement or managing the catalogs. Please do let me know your thoughts so that we will take this series accordingly. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel or follow my profile in LinkedIn. Until then, Sriram Sivashankaran signing off.